This is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is my dog, and this is MMA For You. I'm going to be doing my MMA Q and A for November 2013. I'd like to give some shout-outs to Justin Brunson, Blackett123, Winter Rapala Fishing, The Optimus Crime, Frederick Amador, Be Good 20,000, John Doe, Kevin Barbed, Cyberplex, Pegson MMA Test, Tim Piers, Perfect Machine, and Film99. Okay, I got 3 questions here. Let's get started. Winter Rapala Fishing asks, do you think Rory MacDonald has a decent chance at winning a title at 185? Well, we saw his fight with Robbie Lawler, and the guy still has things to work on. Output would be a very big thing with him that he needs to work on. Skill-wise, it's all there. I mean, his striking's there, his wrestling's there, he has really good ground and pound. But one of the things, he definitely is he's kind of shown to be something of a front runner. That fight kind of really showed it. It's like, if the guy's behind, can he catch up, or does he need to be in control during the whole fight? A lot of times we tend to see the guy in control a lot, and like I said, he needs to increase his output in his striking really bad. Size-wise, he's a big welterweight. I don't think he'll be undersized for the division. He's still young, so I think in the future he has a chance, but as of right now, probably not. There's probably some pretty heavy hitters that could probably give him some trouble at middleweight. Like I said, he's not going to be a small middleweight by any stretch. But, you go up against, like, Luke Rockhold. I don't know if his jab will work as well against, say, a Rockhold as it would against a Jake Ellenberger, for example. You know what I mean? So, he still needs a lot. He still has a lot of work to do. But I think he has a chance in the future. It's just, as of right now, probably not. Okay, next question after that. Noob156 asks, after a week after the fight, what are your thoughts on the GSP versus Hendricks fight? There's actually a lot of things to go with the GSP Hendricks fight. There's judging. There's you have to look at the 10-point must system. And also I have to say I actually just had the second viewing of the fight yesterday, and man, was that fight a lot closer than I remembered it. I was just like, wow, with that Joe Rogan, just claiming that every shot, that every punch that, like, Hendricks threw was, like, devastating, And I gotta say, there's some credence to this, to what I'm about to say. And it showed with Jones versus Gustafsson. When you have such a dominant champion, and he doesn't look dominant, the opponent actually gives him a fight. I think that makes the opponent seem a lot more dominating than he really was. Case in point, the second round. I edged that round to Hendricks, but I don't remember, like, the second beat, I was like, wow, that second round was really close. I not really close, but it wasn't as one-sided in Johny Hendricks' favor as I remember. I mean, Johny Hendricks took over early on in that second round, and then GSP actually took over late in the round, and I was like, wow, I remember that, and I was thinking, it's like, wow, I remember that round being closer, dominantly Hendricks, second view, and I'm like, wow, this is actually a lot closer than I remember. I gotta say, too, with the judging, I don't think the judges were that off, okay? I mean, really, the way the fight played out, even the three judges had it like this. Rounds 2 and 4 went to Hendricks. Rounds 3 and 5 went to GSP, with round 1 being the round that could have gone either way. And I remember everyone saying, oh man, there's like people saying, even on second viewing, I don't know how the first round goes to GSP. I'm like, he threw like a head kick. I didn't even remember that head kick he threw in the round. I think there's a lot of things that make it seem like, Hendricks did a lot better as well. Like, oh, GSP's face is so busted up and Hendricks looks fine. Well, therefore, Hendricks should have won. It's like, well, that's not an indication necessarily that he won under the unified rules. That's the thing. Fights are scored on, a round by round basis. It's not scored by a pride style rules. So, even though his face really was busted up, and some fighters' his faces just bust up pretty easily. It's just the way it is. And some don't, by round scoring, I can see the argument for GSP winning. This fight really wasn't a robbery. Even the first time when the decision was called, I didn't think it was a robbery. It was way too close as it is. Definitely not a robbery. Definitely not fixed. There's so many stupid things I've heard about this fight sometimes too. I thought Hendricks won. I still think even in second viewing Hendricks won barely, and quite honestly, if you told me that first round went to GSP, I couldn't really complain. You're viewing one guy did harder shots or threw harder punches than the other guy. In one sense, did some devastating elbows and whatnot. But there are a lot of little things. There wasn't any big move, in my opinion, especially in that first round, that said, oh man, this guy won for sure. Both guys got a takedown. Both guys just got back up to their feet right away. It goes to show something about the 10-point must system, and a lot of people were talking about it. I know people talk about half points and whatnot. I think they do need an overhaul with the 10-point must system. I don't think the problem with 10-9 rounds, especially 10-9 rounds, is that all of them under the current scoring system are created equal when they're not. There are some rounds where a guy's taken down, ground and pounded, and all the other guy is doing is defending himself, and that's a 10-9. And then there's other rounds where a guy just squeaks by and gets a 10-9. It's they're not the same. I would honestly give more 10-8s, 10-7s. The only problem with that is that there's only 3 rounds, so a 10-8 is pretty big in MMA. Whereas in boxing, you get 12 rounds, you got 3 rounds. If you get a 10-8, the guy has to win both rounds at least just to get a draw, So, I can see why they don't, give such high discrepancies in their point system. But I think I definitely think it needs a change. Like I said, I don't think a round that's squeaked by should be a 10-9, and a round where one guy is all offense and the other guy's just defending with very little offense is also 10-9. I know I can understand why people would say, oh, well, that would be a 10. The squeaking by should be a 10 and 9.5, And a round where a guy's dominating but not nearly finishing should be an 8.5. 10 and 8.5. For me, I would just go with 10-9. And I'd just go with like 10-8 for a relatively dominant round. But yeah, and a 10-7 would be what would be a 10-8 right now. So yeah, it's really interesting actually. I'm curious to see. Well, I'm not curious to see much. Nothing's really going to change, but it's interesting to talk about. Yep. Next right after that, or next question after that. Any Horsing One ask, what are your thoughts on the UFC having the women's 115-pound strawweight division? Let me credit Larrickson. He has a fan post on MMA Fighting here for giving me for showing a really good list of fighters here. So at 115 pounds, you can get Carlos Esparza, Joanne Calderwood, Katja Kankanpa, Claudia Gadelha, Tesha Torres, Rose Namajunas, Mizki Inoue, Beck Hyatt, Felice Herrig, Jessica Aguilar, Ayaka Hamasaki, Alita Gray, Mei Yamaguchi, Patricia Vodonik, Stephanie Egink, Emi Fujino, Herika Tiburcio, Kimberly Tanaka-Noves, Heather Clark, Kaylin Curran, Emi Tomimatsu, and Mika Nagano. And that's not even including other female fighters in the division. I mean, there's a lot of really good fighters in the division. You can also get fighters moving up from 105 to 115. Michelle Watterson, Jessica Penne, Cassie Rodich, Simona Sukapova, Lacey Shuckman, Tessa Simpson, to name a few. You also have potential for 125-pound female flyweights cut to 115. In my opinion, if the UFC was gonna, before they announce this, if the UFC was gonna announce a new women's weight division, 115 is one. There's just too much talent there. And honestly, I'm going to say this. I think there's a lot of star power in the division. I think someone like a Joanne Calderwood, Beck Hyatt, Rose Namajunas could definitely be stars in the division. And it does, you know what? Not to sound sexist, doesn't hurt that some of these fighters are pretty attractive. I mean, that does not hurt at all. It would affect Invicta FC because they would more than likely lose a lot of 105-pound fighters and 115-pound fighters. However, women need places to fight. I don't think it'd get it out of business or anything like that, because female fighters need places to fight. Therefore, Invicta FC is still needed. It's not like some woman decides to go to start MMA and she's immediately going to find the UFC or something like that. You need places like Invicta FC, and it's still hard for women to find fights. I think on a global and international scale, it helps the UFC so much. You now get talent from so many different countries. Like Joanne Calderwood's from Scotland, Katja Kankanpa is from Finland. You got a lot of Brazilians like Claudia Gadelha, Mizuko Inoue is from Japan, Beck Hyatt, she's from Australia. I mean, that's a lot of talent there, from internationally. And with the UFC, trying to be more of a global presence, having these, these international stars or from these particular countries, it's probably only going to help and not, it's probably only going to help. Even in like the Super Fight League, right? Ritika Singh from India had a main event in an SFL show against Irene Cabello from Spain. So I mean, there are a good amount of females that size. It's not unusual for females to be 115 pounds. So you can get a lot of talent there. Get a lot of talent globally. So yeah, I think I'm curious to see who they get. I hope they get like Jessica Aguilar, who's with World Series of Fighting, a lot of the Invicta FC fighters, and a lot of these other fighters. I imagine they're probably going to do an Ultimate Fighter with women. I think that'd be great. Really, I think that'd be awesome. This season of the Ultimate Fighter has been one of my favorites, and that's mainly because of the female fighters. It just adds a different dynamic to the Ultimate Fighter. And yeah, very curious to see where it goes. I think there's a lot of star power here. I think if some of these women get the bigger platform, it's like, wow, dang, that girl can fight, and she doesn't look like it, but these girls can fight too, and they generally have fun fights anyways. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my MMA Q and A for November 2013. If you have any questions, just leave them below. That's it for MMA For You. Thank you guys very much.